Hello everybody, this is Old Soldier. Today we're going to talk about Old Soldier's thoughts on life and love. Just kidding, today we are really going to talk about survival kits. Alright, so we've talked about go bags, and we've talked about everyday carry, and we've talked about a number of things. So you're thinking, hey, if I got a go bag, why do I need a separate kit when I have a backpack full of items that I am carrying or using to ensure my sustainability and my survival? Okay, well, a couple reasons. That's an excellent question. A couple reasons. Maybe you don't have your go bag. Maybe you're carrying other equipment or for other purposes, and instead of a whole large pack or bag devoted to things that will just are solely for guaranteeing your sustainability, you just have maybe a smaller portion. Maybe you have a bag, but or a ruck, or you get separated from it, and there could be a variety of reasons. So it's good to have maybe a smaller bag or a smaller kit prepared. I call it a survival kit. Some people call it an E&E kit. But basically, this is to ensure your sustainability, your survivability, and your recovery. Have somebody recover you or rescue you. So this is what I carried. My survival kit has taken a number of different forms over the years. In this discussion, let's talk a little bit about the line gear concept. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, the line gear is, briefly, is first line gear, second line gear, third line gear. First line gear is what you wear on your person, your footwear, and your clothing. Second line gear used to be referred to as web gear or LBE. Could be translated today into your gun belt and plate carrier. Or maybe load bearing gear, whatever you happen to be wearing or using, maybe your body armor and your equipment that you'd use if there was to be, if you're a soldier or a sailor, marine or airman to fight in. And your third line gear is your rucksack. So when I was in the military, that, as a stated line gear system, to my knowledge, it had never been formalized. However, it had been formalized. It had been well stated, and when I joined the military in the 1980s, there was the motto that you live out of your pockets, you fight out of your web gear, and you live out of your rucksack. And that had been around well before I got into the Army. So it basically says the same thing. So as much as possible, when I carried this kit, or when I do carry this kit, I try to carry it on either my person, which usually doesn't happen. Failing that, I strive to carry it into my second line gear if I'm carrying some sort of load bearing equipment or harness or plate carrier. And failing that, inside a rucksack where I can get to it quickly if I have to leave my ruck and go out. So, and leave without my ruck for whatever reason. So let's just talk about what I have in my survival pack. Well, the first thing, you have to pack it in something. So I have just a very small bag. I think this is made by Spec Ops, and everything that you see in front of you fits nicely inside of it. So you can carry you have a 100-pound survival kit, but if you have to move quickly, are you going to be able to carry it? So this is something that I can move. I can put it in a small pouch. I have the very nice pink snap link. Yes, that got commented on many times. That I can attach it to gear. There's some belt loops on it as well. So I have many ways to carry this. Or if I put it in a pack, let's say I was doing something where I needed, I was doing something else, I had to carry gear for some other purpose, I could put it in one small pocket, and if I had to leave my gear behind, I could grab it. So that's the first thing, is it's a small pouch. Second thing, I have a Aquamira very compact water filter. You know, it's good for all the nasties in North America. I don't know how much I would trust at various places around the world, but in conjunction with that, I have, you guessed it, these are Army surplus water purification tablets. Between the two, you know, I will get the job done. Now, if I'm dehydrated and don't have time to treat the water with iodine tabs, I'll probably just use this. And hey, I'm not a big fan of lying down and putting my face, lying down on the ground like a animal and putting my face in a puddle. But in an emergency, if it was that or hydrate, I would do so. So this and the straw, I have some sort of filtering capability, and with the purification tablets, and if I can find a container or acquire a container, I can purify water. Signaling devices. I have a couple on here. This is a military strobe, IR capable. As you can see, it's strobing there, and when the IR shield is on, you can't see it unless it's in the IR spectrum, or the IR infrared spectrum, so it can be observed with night vision. Excellent piece of gear. That one I bought through a company that I don't believe is no longer in business, Blackheart International. They were based out of West Virginia. They were an excellent veteran-owned company, and they were just an excellent, they had good gear. I don't know what happened to them, but it's my understanding they're no longer in business. I also have military issue signaling mirror. This can be used to reflect sunlight. Also, hey, you can use it to apply it if you're in the military. They applying camouflage makeup. Camouflage. I shouldn't say camouflage makeup, but applying camouflage, you can use that. Also can be used to shave with. Very hardy. I've had this one, gosh, decades. Also for signaling, I have a cloth VS-17 panel. For people who have not been in the military, VS-17 panel is just a orange colored, or sometimes it's just multicolored. This one is orange. It's just a cloth panel, highly visible, that can be used to mark your position, and could also, if you're trying to get somebody's attention, can be used to flash from a distance. People will see that from a remarkable distance away. So, you know, if you can get your hands on one, great. If not, any cloth, brightly colored piece of cloth will serve the exact same purpose. I also have just a very cheap compass, small, lightweight. I think this did come in as part of a Army survival kit. One of my previous videos, I talk about my Techno wrist compass and all the uses of that. And this thing does not have batteries, never go dead. Not super accurate like the Techna, but it'll give you a bearing, and you can find direction with it. And in an emergency, it is better than nothing. Fire. Have the ubiquitous disposable lighter, and then I have just a very simple magnesium fire starter. And you can see this one's been used a little bit. A couple other quick items, small lightweight items that add to this. I have a packet of one mini glow stick, very small, weighs almost nothing. If I need some illumination for something in a pinch, I'd have it. One other item that I've picked up years ago, this is a hand warmer from Prestec. It's a reusable hand warmer, and should you be caught in an emergency situation and need to generate some heat on your hands, maybe it's so cold your hands are numb and they're not working, or if you are in a position and you have found something to cover yourself with, if you've brought something to cover yourself with, you can cover yourself with it, and this will provide some external heat to warm you up and maybe save you from hypothermia. that's it in a nutshell. Everything. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. These are out of a military issue survival kit. No, these are not my part of my wife's lingerie collection. This is a head net and 2 hand nets for bugs. So bugs can make your life miserable in a hurry. I can squash them up. You can see some of the rubber bands that I had those tied up with. These will compact very small, and this will compact very small. And when I wrap everything up, this will all fit nicely into the bag. So the last time I was overseas working in some place where I had to carry a rifle and wear body armor and have some sort of web gear, that all fit in nicely on the pocket of my gear, and it was ready to go. Let's talk a little bit more about the concept of line gear and how your survival gear can be incorporated into it. Back in the day when I was in the military, the line gear, I always had some sort of folding knife on my belt, and maybe also a Swiss Army knife in my pocket as well. One thing you don't see in this kit is cordage. Well, back in the day, I primarily wore jungle boots, are a great deal in the warm weather months. And what we do is take the bootlaces, and for bootlaces, replace it with 550 cord, which could be gutted, and you can use the gutting, still have bootlaces, and then use the guttings for cordage for whatever you needed. In the big army, conventional army, airborne infantry, they said, well, hey, your bootlaces need to be black, not green. That's fine. We all went out and got some dye and dyed our 550 cord black, and we did it that way. But that's an excellent representation of how something in your survival kit can be built into your gear. That's really not part of a kit, but if you're wearing it on your feet, if you're in the military and you're someplace deployed, you probably have boots on, and if you can carry some cordage in your boots, that's one tool that you already have. We talk about some of the other gear, useful gear that could be used for survival, that not really tied in so much my clothing, my first line gear, but pretty much my second line gear, or my web gear. This is just a single cell red lens flashlight. Uses one AA battery. Lasts for quite some period of time. I've had this for a long time. So I keep it dummy corded off with, you guessed it, 550 cord onto my gear, and once again, good piece of gear in a survival situation. You might need some aluminum. Another item that I had built into my gear when I was in the military is a pen flare gun. I think this came out of once again, military issue survival kit. Quite simply, if you have them, and I don't have any anymore, but there was a small flare. You cocked the pen flare gun like this. There was a small flare that came with a package of, I think, either 6 or 8, and you screwed it right into this end, and when you wanted to fire it, you just aimed it and let it go. Excellent for signaling. If you can find one of these, or you choose to use some sort of aerial flare, use extreme caution. In this day and age, if you are lost and you launch one of these, say in a forest, and it starts a major forest fires, yes, you will accomplish your mission of being found and located, but you might have to pay fairly heavy restitution. So if you choose to add some sort of compact flare gun or signaling device that has incendiary potential, be very cautious and judicious in its use. That last argument with flares, or point of concern with flares, about them starting a fire or wildfire, that's what makes things like this. Costs almost nothing, lightweight. When I had my assault gear or my assault vest that I wore in different or later stages of my career. This tucked neatly in the pocket, right, was fitted in my first line gear, and once again can be used for signaling. Very simple, cheap, doesn't use batteries, and won't start a fire. Another piece of gear, very cheap. This was a gift from a friend of mine, or actually a relative, but this is just a very, at the time, inexpensive. I think it was bought. It's a Garmin Gecko. Kind of a slow GPS, not the best thing, but once again had this sewn into my gear, so hey, if nothing else, I could get a fix on my position. And for those of you who have land navigated overseas, it's knowing where you're at is indispensable. Some of you might be saying, I don't have a knife in this kit. I don't. If I did put a knife in it, this is one I carried. This is just a very compact, very sharp. This is some sort of micro knife from Gerber. I've had this for years. At the time when I bought this, I think it sold for like 13 or 14 bucks. And if you can't find this, you can find something similar. I could probably fit that, but I would keep this now in another one of my belts. But this was one of the items that I carried frequently in a pouch of my belt. So very small, sharp knife, indispensable in a survival situation. One item that I did not have in the initial layout, because when I unloaded the kit onto the table for display, I inadvertently dropped on the floor, is just a little fishing kit. I have a length of fishing line. I have about a half dozen hooks and a half dozen sinkers, and I also have it in a camera film cartridge case, wrapped in a couple turns of duct tape. Just a little fishing kit. You know, some people might be rolling their eyes a little bit, but if you do get caught in a place where you're near a water source that has fish, it's a chance, and it's a permissive environment. You have a way to maybe sustain yourself or feed yourself. The duct tape has a lot of uses, anything from using as a makeshift way to close wounds to as a fire starter. And there's just a few wraps around the little plastic case. Another story about survival fishing cases or survival fishing kits. Was taking part in some training for ROTC cadets in Fort Bragg. We had a round robin area where there was a series of classes. We were next to a small creek. During our lunch break, one of my troops had a box of breakfast cereal that was partially digested. I'd asked if he'd give up, or pardon me, not partially digested, but partially eaten. I'd asked if I could have his leftovers. I took a little survival fishing case similar to what I just showed, and cut a cane pole and started fishing in the creek, and got a bunch of goughs, a bunch of laughs. People laughed at me saying I'm not going to catch anything, and then proceeded to start catching a bunch of bullfish, small fish, bullheads. And one of the other stations, they took the bullheads, and they had the survival station for the ROTC cadets, and just made a field expedient smoker, smoked them, and some of the cadets would try the days that I'd catch fish. They would smoke them for the cadets as just an example of what can be done. So, you know, you can laugh at it as you like, but it's another tool. It takes up almost no weight, and is just another way of protecting yourself. Let's talk a little bit more about Strobes. The one that I displayed earlier, that has IR filter or infrared filter, and is probably, you know, uses 2 AA batteries, is probably the best thing, but you know, costs $100, but it is a nice strobe. This is an earlier model, Aircrew strobe. Carried this in my web gear for years. Has some sort of Wakazoo military battery, not easily defined. No IR filter, but this is what we had at the time to mark a position or a position, so that's what we used. You know, you can probably find these, but I don't know how you'd find the battery, and you know, just kind of a neat piece of memorabilia at this point. Another strobe, commercially available, very simple design. Uses one D-cell battery, can be pinned on to a piece of clothing or a life jacket. Is also magnetic on the bottom. Just one small problem with this. I like the simple design, but I bought it and it broke almost immediately, and I still have it for some reason. But if it did work, it'd be great, but unfortunately I can't give it my endorsement because this is the only one that I've had. It broke immediately. I've talked to a couple other people who purchased them, and they said they were not rugged at all, so can't recommend it. Good idea, but poor execution. A fool and his rucksack are soon parted. So what that means, if you basically lose your rucksack and your main source of supplies how to live, you're in trouble. But should you do so and have some sort of survival or emergency kit, you'll be in a better place. I hope this was helpful. This is my take. Other people have different opinions, put different things in their survival kits, but this is my take, and there it is. So folks, this is Old Soldier, out.